Hi ho, health seekers, Dr. Ambs here, and this is another edition of Ambs Jam. Remember, these videos are meant to be educational and entertaining. If you're not laughing at the jokes, don't worry, there's nothing wrong with you. That's a normal reaction. And remember, I went to a Caribbean med school, so always check with a real doctor before you implement any health advice. Today we're going to be looking at resveratrol. Should you be taking it, or is it a huge waste of money? In order to get to the bottom of this, we're going to take a look at the opinions of two major experts on the internet right now, Dr. Peter Attia and Dr. David Sinclair. So first, let's start with Dr. David Sinclair.
Protein, not the gene, but the protein. It's an enzyme that controls other proteins, remember? And so we set up an assay that looks for what's called SIRT1 activation.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, Harry Potter's all grown up now.
Polygonum cuspidatum.
And he's a bit of a sexy professor at Harvard University. Now, I first heard about David Sinclair back in 2019 when he appeared on the Joe Rogan podcast. And that's when I started taking resveratrol because he's such a charismatic, intelligent guy. He made me believe that resveratrol was the next answer to longevity. Now, to understand his point of view on resveratrol, you have to understand sirtuins, and that's what he's talking about here in the video. Sirtuins are a protein in the body that, when activated, in this case, he believes resveratrol does activate them. They play a key role in DNA stability, basically DNA repair. So the idea is that these sirtuins are repairing your DNA throughout the course of your lifetime, which would theoretically allow you to live longer. They also play a key role in mitochondrial efficiency and biogenesis, which should also buy us some health span and longevity. So, and since sirtuins are the key to longevity, then any substance or chemical that would upregulate their activity would also be extremely valuable. Let's hear the crocodile hunter talk a little bit more about his 2003 study.
We added these chemicals. We added a dozen, then we added thousands and eventually tens of thousands to SIRT1 and found which ones raised the level of fluorescence.
So as you can see here, in 2003, Dr. David Sinclair set out to find which chemicals or molecules would activate these sirtuins and increase their activity. So he set up a neat little study that made it so that the more that the sirtuins would activate, the more they would fluoresce or light up. And that's how he figured out the different molecules that did it. And of course, one of the major ones was resveratrol. Okay, so back in 2003, they tested thousands of compounds, right? So why resveratrol? Take it away, Thunder from Down Under.
Nature, 2003. The one that was the best at the time, which activated 13-fold SIRT1 activity, was resveratrol.
Wow, 13-fold, that's pretty good. So what the heck is resveratrol? So resveratrol is a phytolexin. What are phytolexins? These are compounds produced by plants during a time of stress to help them survive. A lot of them have antimicrobial properties, such as resveratrol is found in red grapes. So when these vines, the grapevines, are stressed, they'll produce resveratrol, which actually has an antifungal property. And that's another reason why resveratrol got so popular, is because it's found in grapes and thus in red wine. People were thinking maybe that's why the French live so long, right? Because there's this paradox where the French have a diet that's high in fat, yet their life expectancy is much longer than most developed countries. Stay tuned for more. Okay, now let's hear from Dr. Peter Attia, who is a medical doctor. Let's see what he has to say.
What is the heavyweight champion of sirtuin activators that has taken up 99% of the bandwidth in this space? It's a lovely little chemical called
cocaine. Dosage, 2 bumps every 20 minutes or until the euphoria dissipates. If you find yourself cornering your friends at a party and talking to them about a new business idea, then you've taken the right amount. Oops, my bad. I think I jumped to conclusions based on his frat boy appearance. Turns out he's talking about resveratrol too. Now, you can't blame me though. Based on his wrist, you can tell that he is a third-degree bro scientist. Well, let's see what else he has to say about resveratrol.
Including a very large pharma company, that resveratrol increased lifespan.
He seems a little bit skeptical. Maybe I should stop judging a book by its cover and get to know Dr. Attia a little bit better. That way we could understand his point of view on resveratrol. Oh dear, I seem to have stepped in it this time. Dr. Peter Attia actually has a pretty good pedigree. He went to the Stanford School of Medicine in California and did his general surgery residency at Johns Hopkins. So he's probably a little bit smarter than me. And his whole philosophy is something he calls medicine 2.0. And instead of waiting for supplements or magic drugs to save you, he thinks longevity is going to be achieved by delaying the onset of chronic diseases such as cardiovascular disease, hypertension, and diabetes. And he focuses more on building strength and cardiovascular endurance to make your body resilient as you age and hold on to as much muscle mass as possible. So let's get his final verdict here on resveratrol.
With Rich Miller, who runs the ITP, the Interventions Testing Program, which later tested resveratrol and found that it did categorically nothing.
Okay, so I think he disagrees with Dr. David Sinclair, that Dr. Peter Attia is pretty skeptical about resveratrol for longevity. But maybe it's a dose-dependent thing? What if you took a higher dose? Maybe that would work?
You would need to be drinking your body weight in wine a day to get the doses of resveratrol that were needed to produce this effect.
Well, I guess that's out the window too. Turns out in these mice studies, they were using extremely high doses of resveratrol. Dr. David Sinclair takes about 1 gram of resveratrol a day. And I think they were giving these mice about 100 times that. So it would be very difficult to take that much resveratrol. Okay, so was there any study in which resveratrol works? Dr. Peter Attia, you got to admit, it at least worked in one study, right?
The thing that was going to kill you was your liver being so full of fat that it shot up into your chest so you couldn't.
That's actually how Marlon Brando died. Tragic story. Just kidding, of course. So what Dr. Peter Attia is saying is that there was one mouse study in which they fed these mouse a really high-fat diet, so much so that they got extremely huge fatty livers to the point where it invaded into their chest cavity and essentially caused them to suffocate. And he argues that this is not really a valid study, or it doesn't have any clinical relevance in humans, because we just don't see anybody who dies from that cause, right? So in these mice, resveratrol helped those particular really sick mice live longer, but that's not really going to carry over into humans. So what's the final verdict? Should you take resveratrol or not? Let me say this, both Dr. David Sinclair and Dr. Peter Attia are extremely intelligent guys, and you could take advice from a lot worse people. I am not as intelligent as them. I understand them only as a whale understands the world above the water briefly as he breaches through the surface. But I do try my best, and ultimately I'm not taking resveratrol anymore. I will say I took it for about 2 years, 1 gram a day, the dose recommended by Dr. David Sinclair, and it certainly didn't do any harm. So if your only goal is to make sure you're not in the control arm of the experiment, that is to make sure that if down the road they figure out that resveratrol really is an amazing longevity drug and you want to be on it just in case it is, well, go ahead and take it. I don't think it's going to hurt you, but I will say ultimately I think it's a waste of money. And I subscribe now more to Dr. Peter Attia and his philosophy. I just think supplements for longevity are too good to be true. I think you got to put in the hard work. You have to do resistance training, eat enough protein to maintain your muscularity, work on your VO2 max by zone 2 cardio and high intensity training. And then of course there are supplements that have been proven already that you should be taking. They're not as exciting or sexy, but they include things like whey protein, creatine, vitamin D3, fish oil, magnesium, multivitamin, okay? It's not as exciting as resveratrol. I mean, just the name resveratrol sounds cool, but ultimately I'm gonna say it's a ripoff. Okay, gang, thank you so much for watching my video. If you liked it, please hit the like button. If you didn't like it, please hit the like button. Please subscribe, or my wife is gonna make me get a real job, and I don't wanna work. Check out my other videos here. They have equally bad production value. Leave any comments you like in the comment section below. If you want to see a video on a new topic, I'll do my best to cover it. And thank you so much, gang. Stay healthy.